Hey, and welcome back to Taking Up Space with Jordan. I'm your host, Jordan, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. Most weeks, I do walk away from these episodes feeling really proud of what we've created together, but this one might be my favorite because today we're talking about something that feels like just fun and powerful, which is declaring a new era for yourself. Now, eras have been around for a while, but let's be real, our goddess, Taylor Swift, definitely brought them into the spotlight with her Eras Tour. So to quote a great poet, welcome to the Eras Tour, but this time you are the headliner. I know that was corny, but I really wanted to say it. This episode is all about how to define and embrace the chapter of life that you're in and why doing that matters. Because when you name your era, you reclaim your power. And we're all about reclaiming our power here on this podcast. Because it's not just about the aesthetics or the trends. It's about clarity, identity, direction. It's about saying, this is who I am right now, and this is what I'm choosing for myself. For me, naming my era gives me focus. It helps me align my everyday decisions with my bigger goals, and it reminds me that I'm in the driver's seat. Women, people, especially women, we're we're constantly being told what we should be doing, how we should be acting, who we should be, and when we should arrive to a situation. But defining your era, that that is a declaration. It's saying I define me. And full transparency, when I sat down to write this episode, I had to get honest with myself like I do for most of these episodes because I thought I was moving towards my soft girl era, if we want to call it that. I was trying to prioritize self-care a lot more. And again, not just the bubble baths. I talked about this last week, but just creating space for the things that mattered most to me. And that meant giving myself ease and letting other things take a back seat so I could prioritize what I really wanted for my life. But as I looked at my energy, I looked at my priorities and how I was moving through the world right now, I realized, nope, I am really somebody that is wanting to be in her CEO era. And I'm the boss. I make the rules. I decide how far I go and how I get there. And instead of being overwhelmed by that, overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things to get done for this podcast, for the business, and for the life that I wanted, it actually is lighting me up right now. There is a fire within me. And that's where I am right now. And I want to help you figure out where you are too. So if that sounds like something you're ready to explore, then go ahead and keep on listening. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. I'm on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. If you want extra tools or resources, you can check out my website at www.takingupspacewithjordan.com or connect with me on socials, which is at Taking Up Space with Jordan, everything all one word. Okay? Housekeeping done. Mic is on. I double checked. Let's go ahead and let's define your era. Okay, before we dive into how to define your era, I want to start with the truth. Eras can be intentional, but they can also be unconscious. You might be living in one right now without even realizing it. And when we don't pause to name the season that we're in, it's easy to start to feel out of alignment. That's exactly what was happening to me just during Q1, just a couple weeks ago. I wanted to shift into that CEO era. I was ready to get going. I had done the work throughout most of last year and I was ready to dive in into my goals head first. Here we go. I had big goals and they all fell flat because life had other plans. Between my full-time job, my personal stressors, and my sweet but very sick pups needing constant care, I wasn't in boss mode. I was in caretaker mode. And I didn't fully realize it until I stepped back and started to reflect. Honestly, I was in my dog mom era, and that chapter required rest, gentleness, flexibility, and so much patience. I had to slow down. I had to let go of what I thought I should be doing and what should be happening and meet myself where I actually was. And that's the beauty of defining your era. It grounds you in the truth of your season, even when it's unexpected. It reminds you that nothing is permanent, and when things feel hard or chaotic, naming the era gives you perspective. It becomes a container, a moment in time. And you know what? It's going to be one that passes. So here's your first journal prompt or reflection moment. There are going to be a lot over this episode, so don't worry. I will be putting those down in the description, as well as they will be connected to a post on my website. So you will want to go ahead and check that out unless you're writing these down directly. But anyways, first journal prompt. What season of life are you actually in right now? Not the one you wish you were in, but the one you're truly navigating. You can even pause this episode and give yourself a minute to sit with that if you want to. And personally, I've shifted into my self care, prioritizing me era, which I mentioned in the intro. After months of navigating stress and setbacks, I finally have the bandwidth again. I've rested, I've recharged, and now I'm ready to start rebuilding. But if that doesn't sound like you, that's okay. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? What are my biggest worries? Where am I craving support, space, or even softness? Go ahead and jot those down because we're going to start to break things down even more so you can start building an era that empowers you no matter what stage you're in. And don't worry, like I said, if you're looking for these journal prompts, you can check them out on my website at www.takingupspacewithjordan. So next we're going to move into defining your era. Because we've grounded ourselves in the reality of where we are, so we're going to go a little bit deeper. I want you to think, what came up for you when you thought about those questions? Really pause here for a second and think about it. If you had to assign an emotion to how you're feeling right now, what would that emotion be? Now, I want to gently caution you against just stopping at that first feeling. Don't just stop at the, I'm happy right now, or I'm overwhelmed. I want to break it down even further. If you're feeling happy, is that happiness rooted in confidence, in connection, in feeling free? If you're feeling low, is it sadness or maybe grief, frustration, or maybe even burnout? This is where I really like to bring up the feelings wheel because it's one of my favorite tools. I use it personally, especially as somebody who didn't grow up knowing how to, or actually I should say, who didn't learn how to name all of my emotions, who didn't realize that there were all these emotions in the world that reflected back of happiness and sadness and disgust and anger. Thank you, Inside Out 1 and 2. But the feelings tool, it helps us move beyond those surface level emotions and it gets to the truth of what's really going on. Because once we name it, that's when we can work with it. So here's an example. I'm happy could easily become I'm feeling hopeful, energized, and finally inspired. Doesn't that feel more vivid? Doesn't that paint a more clear picture of how one might be feeling more than just happiness? But you need to be clear, it is perfectly fine to feel just happy. That's totally okay. There's no wrong answer here. They're your emotions. But when we start to paint a more colorful picture, when we start to really dive down deep into our emotions and understand where we're coming from when we say, I'm happy, it becomes more accurate. You can either Google the emotions wheel or download one that I've created on my website, but save it to your phone, save it in your journal, print it out wherever you process best because it will be a great tool, even further than just building out your eras, especially if you are somebody who struggles with naming your emotions. Honestly, I think it's great to carry it around on your phone because we usually all carry our phones around. And I think it's great to just jot things down in your notes app. You're like, I was feeling sad. And it's like, actually, no, I was feeling deeply disappointed in this person. That paints a much bigger picture than I'm feeling sad. Okay, so now I want to explore maybe a deeper emotion. Let's just say frustration. Maybe for you, you said, I'm feeling frustrated. Ask yourself, where is that frustration coming from? Is it with other people or is it internal? And what is that frustration asking you to pay attention to? Because here's the kicker with emotions. They are just messengers. They are not problems for you or I to fix. When you sit with them, your emotions, you learn from them. And this is a huge part of the work that I've been doing. We don't get to judge our feelings. We only get to be curious about them. And now, because I've been doing all this work myself with my emotions, I'm now opening up the space to others to support them as they go through their own journey. So I want to do a little mini coaching session because these are the exact questions I'll be exploring with future clients, and I want to share them with you first. If you're listening somewhere quiet, feel free to speak these answers out loud. If you're journaling, grab your notebook. You can also revisit this later when you have time and space to just sit with it all fully. So the first thing, what emotions are you feeling the most right now? Try to move beyond those surface feelings like we discussed. Use the feelings wheel if you need it for support. What's taking up most of your energy lately? This can be work, relationships, healing, caregiving, burnout, whatever is actually pulling on you. If you imagine that you are sitting on the ground and you put out both of your arms and one keeps pulling down, what is that? What is the thing that is pulling you and pulling that arm down that doesn't allow you to sit there fully balanced, feeling good, feeling calm, feeling content? Moving on, what do you need more of right now? Is it peace, purpose, maybe play, some rest? Maybe you need a challenge. Maybe you've been settling for too much time. If your current season had a theme or title, what would it be? You don't have to get it right. Just start exploring. This could be your rebuilding era, your softening era, or even your I don't know and that's okay era. What would it look like to honor this area instead of resisting it? And I really want you to let this one sink in. Sometimes the only way forward is to fully accept where we are. And when we push against this chapter that we are in, when we push against what is going on in our lives, rather than just reflecting and seeing what's going on with them and getting curious about where we are in that chapter, especially if I reflect back on my own past couple months this year, I was really pushing against what I thought I needed to be doing versus where my energy should have actually been. And what ended up happening is I was creating my own burnout within my own life. It wasn't because work was super stressful. It wasn't because the dogs were sick. No, it was because I wanted my life to be a very specific way and I wasn't willing to yield and wasn't willing to understand that that was just not where my energy needed to be. And it's okay to admit that. And so these are the exact kind of questions I'll be exploring with future clients. And again, this is on my website if you want to check it out. So that was just a little taste of what my coaching sessions are going to feel like. I may be at the start of my coaching journey, but I know what it feels like to lose clarity, to carry the weight of expectations, and to rebuild with intention. I've been there. I've had to rebuild and I've had to reset. I've talked about my own journey on this podcast before, but I basically had to start from zero. I had to learn how to be by myself again. I had to learn to be my own person. And that can take a lot of energy. I also had to learn to unpack a lot of the trauma that I had been holding on to for so long and not willing to deal with it because I thought it would be too painful. And it was in the moment. But as I've grown through it, as I've evolved, I feel better from it. And so I created this era exercise because honestly, I needed it too. When we get to step into our era and claim it with love and passion and understanding, we allow ourselves to let go of the idea of what we should be doing and focus on more of what we want to do. We give ourselves permission to rest, to persevere through the hard times, and build a life that we actually love, which is the end goal after all of this, anyways. So once you've defined your era, it's time to start living it. This is where the shift happens. This is where clarity becomes action. Because naming your era, it's just the beginning. Embodying it, that's where the magic is. Once you give yourself permission to fully step into this version of you, there's no stopping you. You can do anything that you want. And the beautiful part, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to keep showing up for yourself. Now ask yourself this, when you're thinking about your era, when you're thinking about how would this era be viewed by you specifically, what are the habits of you in this era? What are your affirmations? What boundaries are in place to protect your peace, your time, your energy? Because no matter what era you are in, you should always be practicing boundaries. And once you've started to answer these questions, you can begin to see what this next era is going to actually look, feel, and sound like to you. Let me walk you through what this looks like for me right now. So as I said, I'm in my CEO era, and that doesn't mean hustle culture for me. That doesn't mean that I'm grinding every single day, burning the midnight hour. That means ownership. It means I set the pace. I choose the priorities. I design the structure that supports my goals and protects my rest. So here's what that looks like for me day to day. It means sticking to my social media calendar, not perfectly, but with consistency. We're aiming for a B to B plus energy here. I'm not doing any burnout trying to be an A plus star student every day in life. That's just too exhausting. There's too many factors that are going to go into that honestly I don't want to deal with. The other thing is using daily reminders that I am in charge. I don't have to wait for permission. I am the permission. I'm not waiting for someone else's approval on if I should post that thing on social media. How good do I look in that photo or this or that? I'm not letting that bring me down anymore. Also, constantly grounding in the truth that this is my life, this is my era, and I'm allowed to own it. I'm owning my mistakes and I'm learning from them. I'm giving myself time to rest, like actually scheduling days where I'm resting, I'm chilling, I'm not doing anything, I'm rotting the hell out of my couch, and I'm not moving. And then I also have on the other side of that, I have max out days. I have one coming out on one coming up on Saturday that I plan on filming that day as well, where it's just like I'm waking up, my dogs are going to a babysitter and they will be gone for 8 to 10 hours. And I will be allowed to sit in my home or go to a coffee shop and focus on the things that I need to focus on. I'm going to be exhausted after that day, but that's what I'm choosing. I've prepared myself for it. My home will be clean, the laundry will be done, and that'll be okay. Because we believe in balance in our CEO era. We are resting as well as grinding on the days that we choose to grind on. These day-to-day priorities have to be supported by habits. That doesn't mean, though, doing a whole overhaul on your routine in life. That takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of energy. Your habits, though, they don't need to be huge changes. It might just mean that you're waking up maybe 30 minutes earlier than what you were, or you're sleeping in 30 minutes earlier. You might be saying no more often, spending time with people that affirm the version of you that you're becoming. Your habits should align with the goals and priorities that you have outlined for yourself. And what also needs to go with that is trusting in yourself, trusting that you know what you need and want in your life. Because if you believe in you and you have surrounded yourself with the people that do believe in you as well, then you can also prepare for the final boss, which is resistance. There are going to be people who don't understand the new version of you. There are going to be people that might make you feel guilty if you're in your resting era. And maybe because they aren't allowed that privilege and access to you, maybe they are not ready for this version of you. But I need to say something so clear. That's not a problem for you to solve. The people who only know the version of you that stayed quiet, played small, or also said yes to everything, those people are not going to be ready for this new version of you. They are not going to be ready for this empowered, inspired, capable human that you are becoming. Again, regardless of what era you are going into. Because when you take ownership of your era, when you define what this chapter is for yourself, you are still empowered, you are still inspiring, and you are capable of becoming the human that you want to be in this world. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world where everyone leaves space for everyone to glow and be happy with whatever stage of life that they are in. No. Instead, when you show up in this new era, you are going to make people uncomfortable. But let me let you in on the ultimate secret to the whole game called life. Their discomfort is not your burden. Their confusion or judgment is not your cue to shrink. It is your cue to keep going. That said, how you navigate that resistance, it's going to be 100% up to you. You can be firm and still and kind. You can hold your boundaries without needing to over-explain them. And this is one of the most hardest and most powerful parts of stepping into your era, is realizing that not everyone is going to come with you and still choosing to move forward anyway. Which brings me to our final reflection. Your era isn't forever. And that's actually a beautiful thing. Because if we stayed in the same era forever, day after day, season after season, we wouldn't grow. We'd become stagnant. We'd miss out on the evolution that life is meant to bring. Eras are not permanent, they're purposeful. They exist to serve the version of you that needed them, and then they make room for what's next. So give yourself full permission to let your era evolve. Life will naturally shift us into new mindsets, priorities, and rhythms. Sometimes it's a gradual shift, other times it's a hard stop, which we've all experienced before. Either way, we get to decide how we move through it. So maybe you're in your hot girl summer era 1 month, and the next you're soft girl leave me alone while I rest and hydrate era the next. That doesn't mean you're flaky. That means you're in tune with what you need. That means you're honoring who you are in this moment. And yes, sometimes there's grief when you leave behind a former version of yourself. That's okay too. But just like that old sweater in the back of your closet, the one that used to fit but hasn't felt like you in years, it's okay to let it go. To thank that version of you for getting you here, release her with love. There's no guilt in growth. You are allowed to pivot. You are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to reinvent yourself as many times as it takes to feel like you again. If your life is a book, this is just one chapter, and you have so many more to write. So honor this era fully. And when it's time to turn the page, do so with grace because you're not starting over. You're building on everything that brought you here. So if this episode spoke to you, if you're sitting there in your feelings and you're like, yes, I'm ready to define my era. I'm ready to stop drifting and start showing up as the version of me I know is in there. Then I want to invite you to go just a little bit deeper because this podcast is actually just the starting point. Over on my website, you'll find a free guided walkthrough to help you define your era step by step, as well as a feelings wheel download that'll support you in getting honest and clear about where you really are emotionally. And if you want some quick hit inspiration and tools you can return to throughout the week, go ahead and make sure to check out my brand new YouTube series where I'll be walking you through exactly how to build out your era from habits to mindset to boundaries. Each video is hopefully going to be anywhere from 90 to 120 seconds, but it will be packed with a ton of information. But here's the big and final thing. If you're listening to this and thinking, wow, I wish someone could guide me through this in real time, it's literally what I'm here for. I'm currently welcoming new coaching clients, and if you're craving support, structure, and soul level alignment in this season, I would love to walk alongside you. You don't have to figure it out all alone, and trust me, I've been there. You can reach out to me on my website or DM me directly on Instagram at Taking Up Space with Jordan. It's the same handle everywhere. And let's talk. Let's dream. Let's define this next chapter of yours together. So until next time, this is your era. Own it fully, live it loudly, and know that you are so capable. Kisses.